Today, I'm reviewing the KEFINE Quatio quad driver IEMs with two dynamic drivers, two balanced armatures. We're going to try to figure out whether these are worth all the hype or not. Let's get it. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. So check out the KEFINE Quatio. I'm not sure about the pronunciation. I'm going with that. But that's what the shells look like. Now these are aluminium shells with an anodized matte black finish. They're, I don't know, kind of large, but well, average I would say. They're not really big. Look at the face plates there, just a pretty low-key design, just some KEFINE branding on there. Of course, these are tunable IEMs. By the way, the price is $129 US. These are a tunable IEM, and the tuning is done via these nozzle filters, which you can just unscrew like that. Now there are 3 nozzle sets in the box, and I'll show you some of the accessories in just a moment. Right, so you get a pretty nice case. That's it there, and inside of there are the other 2 sets of tuning filters. You also get a couple of plugs or a couple of terminations because the included cable is modular. So here is the cable, silver plated copper. It's a little on the chunky side, but nothing out of the ordinary. It handles quite well. There is the 4.4mm plug. And of course we get 0.78mm 2-pin connectors. There is a total of 12 pairs of silicone ear tips, which we love to see. That is great. Unfortunately, all of these are too small for my ears, so that's fucking useless. But jokes aside, most people will be delighted with that selection. For myself, as usual, I had to pull out some of my personal collection, but that's neither here or there. I'm very used to that. So yeah, 2 dynamic drivers in here and 2 balanced armatures. I think the BA drivers are Sonyan, but enough with all that. It's time to get onto the sound. And first of all, I will say that this is an efficient IEM. You don't need any powerful source. You can actually plug these straight into a smartphone, or any little low-powered or budget dongle DAC will do the trick. But in terms of sound signature, hey, the fun is back. There's been such an emphasis lately, or not lately, the last 2 or 3 years. Everyone's been fixated on flat and neutral sound signatures. It's kind of become a claim of relevance for audiophiles to say, I've got some neutral IEMs, they're uncolored and transparent. And that's all fine and good, don't get me wrong, I do like a good neutral set. KEFINE has been doing things a little bit differently. However, they tune their IEMs for musicality, and it seems to be working because they haven't had a dud yet. It just reminds me, remember, well, some of you might remember, but years ago, like 6 or 7 years ago, you'd often see in AliExpress on the marketing slides for these Chi-Fi IEMs, they would be claiming Fever Bass because back then it was nice. It was actually desirable to have an emphasized bass. Well, maybe we might be heading back a little bit into that direction. Whether we are or not, it doesn't matter. I'm just rambling at the moment. So my point is, KEFINE has consistently focused on musical and well-balanced tunings, and it's paid off. The Quatio continues that approach. It's designed for enjoying music, not for impressing everybody with graphs. And I'm not saying the Quatio is a bass monster or bass head IEM or really coloured. Far from it, but it does have a bit of character. It does have a bit of fullness that makes it both engaging and non-fatiguing. It has a nice balance of body and technical performance to sort of give you the best of both worlds. People who prefer absolute transparency and zero coloration, well, you should seek alternatives because this won't give you that. But people who are looking for something with a bit of musical flavour, a bit of warmth, a bit of punch, or nuanced emotion, will likely find that the Quatio hits the sweet spot. It's lively enough to bring energy and dynamics, but at the same time, it's refined enough to keep vocals and instruments and detail in focus. So those three tuning filters, I gravitated to the silver ones, which are the default or balanced filters. That is the sound that I'm going to be talking about in this review. If you want to see the measurements for the different filters, check out the full written review. There's a link in the description. But for now, I'm going to throw up my graph of the silver filter alongside the Harman 2019 IEM target. So let's talk about the bass. And the Quatio's bass, it's well controlled, but it also knows how to let its hair down and have a bit of fun. So sub bass notes reach nice and deep. They've got plenty of satisfying impact, but that sub bass doesn't linger or become overbearing. When I say that, it takes my mind for some reason to the Truth Ear Zero Red. But in this case, the lows feel authoritative and cohesive. They feel integrated nicely with the mids and the treble, part of the overall tuning, not just an afterthought sort of added to prop up an anemic sound signature. The mid bass tuning is slightly tamer, but it's still got plenty of punch. It's got plenty of slam to drive the music along. Bass notes are well defined. They've got a nice crisp leading edge, great definition, and that gives the bass clarity and precision, but still maintains that nice, strong rhythmic presence. And regarding the mid-range, I'd say the mids sort of hit that sweet spot between warmth and clarity. Male vocals feel full-bodied. They've got natural warmth, but they don't sound thick or bloated. And female vocals have a nice crisp edge. They've got a bit of sweetness to them. There's no harshness there. Pretty lively. And keep in mind, I'm talking about the silver filter here. Instruments like strings and piano have a nice, pleasing presence and a nice, realistic timbre. But what really stands out is how the mids fit seamlessly into the overall tuning. They're neither too forward or recessed. They simply sit right, and that allows for a nice expressive dynamics. There's just the right boost in the upper mids to give them a bit of energy and life, but without becoming shouty or fatiguing. So I think people who appreciate a natural timbre and a balanced vocal performance will find that the mid-range here checks all the right boxes. The Quatio just does a great job of it. And then finally the treble. Look, with a bass elevated and kind of somewhat fun sound signature, good treble tuning is absolutely key to holding things together. And I think KEFINE has really nailed the treble tuning with the Quatio. It's smooth, it's well mannered, it's got just enough sparkle to liven things up, but without ever tipping over into harshness. It doesn't chase ultra extended highs or try to overdo the air, but there's a bit of a lift there that adds plenty of clarity and a nice sense of space. There's no distracting grain or sharp edges in the treble or anything like that. It's the kind of treble that sort of prioritizes listenability over trying to impress you with exaggerated detail. And that's not to say that it lacks resolution, it just delivers it in a more relaxed and sort of unforced way. It just sits comfortably in the mix like the bass and the mid-range, like everything does. Everything just sort of sits comfortably, cohesively together, supporting the other parts. Though, of course, some people, myself included, do find those gold filters a little bit edgy. Now, when it comes to soundstage and technicalities, surprisingly strong performance from the Quatio. It's got a large natural soundstage. It's well balanced between width and depth. There's a nice stable center image where your vocals are front and center with good note density, good stability. There's a strong sense of layering, like really good staging. So positional cues are very precise. You can hear exactly where each individual element is within the stage, and that is bolstered by excellent instrument separation and great overall resolution. And to top all that off, you've got excellent detail retrieval as well. All the while, the treble is nice and smooth, yet at the same time, you get these excellent micro details. Okay, comparison time. The first one I'm going to pull out is the Arpeg Ear Hane, and Arpeg ear is, I believe, manufactured by Topping, the guys who bring us all those wonderful DACs and amps. So the Hane is around the same price, or at least it was at the time of my review, and it has 4 tuning switches, whereas the Quatio has got those 3 sets of tuning nozzles. And of course the Hane is shells are resin. They're a little bit lighter. Yeah, they're definitely lighter than the Quatio, and to my ears a little bit more stable in my ears. But having said that, I forgot to mention at the beginning, these do feel nice in my ears. Not quite as secure as the Hane, but definitely very comfortable. The Hane has a single 10mm dynamic driver compared to the Quatio, which is a quad driver unit. These two IEMs are fairly similar when it comes to frequency response. The Hane has slightly less sub bass, but thanks to, I think it's because of the resin shells, the bass on the Hane is a bit more visceral and physical, like you feel the vibrations. And I'm not saying you don't on the Quatio, it's just a bit more noticeable on the Hane. Apart from the bass, however, they have a very similar tonal balance. There's a real cohesiveness to the Hane. You know, it's hard to match single dynamic drivers for that real natural cohesiveness. And it pulls slightly ahead of the Quatio in that regard. However, it doesn't quite match the Quatio's instrument separation and resolution. But if you are sensitive to treble and sharpness, you'll probably find the Hane's percussion, or percussion attacks more specifically, more tolerable, while the Quatio's notes are a bit more etched and defined. But to my ears, the Hane leans closer to true neutral, while the Quatio has a bit more coloration. Both of these have probably similarly spacious soundstage, I would say, but the Quatio edges ahead when it comes to imaging precision. It's just very, very good at, positional cues. Next up, I've got the Let Shure S12. This is the original version, and the reason I decided to go with this one, because I just noticed today that it's actually the same price or even lower now than the Quatio. It is a single planar magnetic driver, so maybe not apples to apples exactly, but I don't care about that. I think comparing IEMs in a similar price range is more beneficial than sticking to something with exactly the same driver configuration, which I think is a bit stupid. But right off the bat, the S12 sounds leaner and brighter. It has a very etched, sort of somewhat analytical character. It's got very fast transients and super crisp note edges. The sub-bass extension and presence of the sub-bass are reduced compared to the Quatio. However, the S12's bass is tighter and more agile. In addition to that, the S12's mid-range is shaped by a pretty prominent 2 kHz peak, which gives it really strong vocal presence and clarity, but at the same time, it does get somewhat harsh and shouty at times, especially when you pair that 2 kHz peak with another one at 8 kHz in the treble. So cymbals can start to sound splashy, whereas they're smoother and more tolerable on the Quatio. In contrast though, the Quatio's mid-range has more body and more note thickness. When it comes to technicalities, the S12 has got excellent transient speed, great bass control, and very, very good micro detail retrieval. It does have better micro details than the Quatio. But the S12 also feels less resolving in complex passages, or especially when, that upper treble tends to haze and blur separation a bit when there's a lot of activity like electric guitars or cymbals going on. And that is something that the Quatio handles beautifully. I'm less taken with the S12 now than when I first reviewed it. I guess that was probably 2 or 3 years ago, but this one, more than a lot of other IEMs, is sort of showing its age when it comes to tuning. But I will say, if you do like a brighter and more aggressive treble tuning, then you'll probably still enjoy the S12. It is still a great IEM, But yes, next to the KEFINE, it doesn't really stand up. However, I would say the Hane, which is, in my opinion, an underappreciated and underrated IEM, this one should be high on people's lists as well. But coming back to the Quatio, look, this is a bit of a game changer, really. It's just simply outstanding. It's probably at this time the best that money can buy for $129. I mean, there are other IEMs that probably sound as good, and that's going to depend, of course, on your personal preferences as well. Like I said, if you're into super neutral, then you probably won't like these. But for all intents and purposes, $129, considering you get a nice modular cable, you get a great selection of ear tips, you get a carrying case, and they sound amazing, plus those 3 different sound profiles, the KEFINE Quatio is just simply outstanding. I highly recommend it. If you're on the fence, just jump on that buy button now and grab yourself some of these. They are amazing. That about wraps it up. So thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, Par Family Audiophile style. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button before you go. And until next time, I'll see you later.